A large portion of my early childhood was spent watching old cartoons. Tom and Jerry, Wile E. Coyote, Looney Tunes. I would spend so much time watching these. The slapstick humor always found a way to make me chuckle. Cuphead serves as a reminder of the magical time of being an 8-year-old. Since I am a huge sucker for anything inspired by old cartoons, I just had to play this game. I know this game came out a while ago, but this review is in the spirit of the recent port to the PS4. Let's start off with the art style. From an aesthetic standpoint, the developers absolutely nailed this game's art direction. It looks exactly like the cartoons I grew up with. The ridiculous, over-exaggerated movements and appearances of the characters, the sound effects that sound like they were made by hitting a balloon against a mic, which is actually what old cartoons did. The half-hearted music, the way the characters talk, the cheesy titles on the areas and bosses. This game looks and sounds exactly like the cartoons that inspired it. I have absolutely no complaints in that department. Moving on to the combat, I am not a particular fan of shoot-em-ups where you just hold down the trigger as a form of fighting, but I like Cuphead's combat because needing to avoid or dodge attacks makes it engaging. I also think that the style is very charming. When you press the button to fire, your character shoots projectiles using a finger gun. You can also change the type of projectile you fire. You can have a shotgun spray, charge shot, a shot that shoots a close-ranged ball, tracking projectiles. There are also other upgrades such as smoke bomb, which makes your dash give you invincibility frames. Also in combat, you can parry pink projectiles by slapping them mid-air. This fills up your super ability. It is also important to remember this when co-oping, as parrying your friend's ghost revives them. That should about wrap it up for combat. Now for the real reason people are here. Bosses. The bosses make up the entire game, as all you really do is fight them. That makes the game a shoot-em-up, cartoony boss rush, which sounds very interesting. The bosses are masterfully made, with hand-drawn telegraphs, ridiculous and funny transformations, and little jokes that I would see in old cartoons, such as worker bees with briefcases. This is where the art style truly shines, with these enormous cinematical boss fights with hundreds of crisp frames of animation. Besides boss fights, there are also levels called run and guns, which are essentially regular levels with enemies and a mini-boss at the end. I don't particularly like these levels as they feel like a step down from the bosses. A lot of damage done to you in these feels cheap, such as a tiny enemy running across the screen, or a gap that is very hard to jump over, or a platform that vanished while you were standing on it. You aren't forced to do these levels, but they give you coins which you use to buy upgrades, so you kind of have to. What I do like, however, is the co-op. It is very well implemented. You have different health bars and the same amount of health, which is 3. That means if your friend is bad, you can just carry them, like what I did. Health of bosses is scaled based on whether you're co-oping, but as long as you're both attacking, it shouldn't matter that much. You also get the same amount of coins, but don't share them, meaning you can buy upgrades without it affecting your friend. Again, that means while my friend is being cute and buying more health, I, who actually knows what they're doing, can buy the scatter shot without either parties being affected by our choices. One problem I did have when starting was that it can be very hard at first to determine who's who, but I eventually got the hang of it, especially after I had played by myself for a while and had gotten used to being Cuphead. I actually have no problems with the co-op. It was masterfully executed. For my final point, I would like to bring up everyone's major problem with this game, and that is its difficulty. Yes, Cuphead is a challenging game, but I remind you, difficulty does not affect quality. Artificial difficulty would, but most of the difficulty in Cuphead is completely fair. I noticed by taking note of bosses' attack patterns and strategically using my firing modes, I would improve with every death. Would that be possible in an artificially difficult game? Unlikely. All you're learning in those games is don't get hit. Also, the hand-drawn animation style fits perfectly with the difficulty. That means that the telegraphs are more pronounced and noticeable. Some of the difficulty can feel artificial, such as cheap attacks like enemies running on screen as you're fighting the boss, having to jump on platforms that randomly spawn, making consistent runs harder, attacks that have way too big a hitbox. But other than that, the difficulty is completely fair and justifiable. I don't think I could imagine the game any other way. If I had to use one word to describe Cuphead, it would be charming. Everything about this game makes me chuckle, just like the cartoons that inspired it. Yes, it is difficult, but that only makes the achievements feel greater. I think the creators have just about made it as good as they can, with the exception of a few bugs here and there. But all in all, Cuphead is a quality experience that I would recommend to anyone looking into the game now that it's on PS4.